this is just a small part of the books that I talked about on my channel, because quite frankly, I cannot carry more books than this. And second of all the other books that I talked about were digital. So here's my top 5 of books that I talked about in 2024. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Toughts and thank you for still being here in 2025. In 2024, I again reviewed a shit ton of books. Well, I reviewed some of them like completely, and other ones I just pointed out that they exist to you so you could potentially grab them for yourself. Now, in this video, I want to give you my top 5 of the books that I talked about on my channel, which comes with a little bit of a disclaimer. First of all, this is completely my opinion. It doesn't mean that when I think a book is great, that the other books aren't also great. This channel is a collection of stuff that I absolutely think is worth your time and money and investment to get for yourself and for your table. So every book I review through the year is a book that I would recommend. These are just the books that I ended up using the most myself for my games, and I ended up just liking and like in the long term liking the most for my games. Also, when you don't see a book in this list, it might just be the runner-up to another book. So it might just be a book that I still think is incredible for your table, potentially. Another important rule is these are books that I talk about in 2024 and that were new-ish to me. Some of these books might have released in 2023 or even 2022, but I never touched them or never talked about them. These are new-ish books to me that I talked about in 2024. Really, really important detail. But without further ado, these are in no particular order my 5 favorite books from 2024. And today I want to start off with a player resource, and this might come as a little surprise because I've only done, I think, one small video about this, but I really absolutely love the Anothology of Heroes by Taran Pounds. Now, if you do not know who Taran Pounds is, he's a YouTuber by the name of Indestructiboy, creating his own tabletop RPG, Vagabond RPG, which I still need to talk about on my channel. But he has also created the Anothology of Heroes. If you don't know what that is, the Anothology of Heroes is a collection of hero classes, of player classes for 5th edition that he put together. Like, he has been releasing classes for 5th edition for a while, I think for years or something like that, and he decided to put that all together into this book. So all the classes normally come separately as a PDF, and he put it together in a print-on-demand kind of thing on the Dungeon Masters Guild, which is an absolutely must-buy if you're looking for that, what I call unapologetic fun. These classes are all not meant to be taken too seriously. So there's classes in here. There's this Defender class in here, which is just a guy with 2 ginormous shields and stuff like that. The artwork and the writing in here, it's all it's just great. It's just a great little resource for people who are not taking their game too seriously. And I don't mean that to talk down on this book. I actually mean that as a compliment, because I personally, when I GM games, when I play games, D&D and tabletop RPGs are a big part of my life, but I also at the same time don't take them too seriously. I don't take my games too seriously, and this just translates that the best. It comes with new feats, it comes with new abilities, it comes with new, I don't know, there's new equipment in here, there's like really cool artwork in here. By the way, these are all classes. These are all like a lot of these are full classes. There's full classes in here. I think there's also subclasses here. So there's the Alchemist class, the Dancer class, the Merchant class, the Revised Ranger class, the Runekeeper, Sovereign class, and the Vanguard class. The Vanguard is the guy with the 2 towering shields. So yeah, Anothology of Heroes is a book on the Dungeon Masters Guild. You can get it as a PDF. You can get it as a print on demand. If you want more information, check out the video on it. But otherwise, really a must grab for anybody who wants an unapologetic fun hero and also wants to kind of just support a very, very cool YouTuber. There are 2 books in this video that I did not expect I was gonna like as much as I like them, and one of those is the Cypher System Bestiary. The first time they announced this, I was like, what? A bestiary for the Cypher System. Why? It defeats the whole purpose of the Cypher System. The whole name a number for the Cypher System. Because in the Cypher System, if you name a number, which is the level of the creature, you basically have almost all stats of the creature. You can add extra stuff to it, but you have all of the basic stats of the creature, and the players can basically fight that creature. So it doesn't really need a bestiary, right? Also, every Cypher System book that I own, and there's a lot of them piled up there, and there's more over there, almost all of them have creatures. So I already have, I don't know, hundreds, maybe like 1,000 creatures for me to choose for my Cypher System games. And then this popped up in the mailbox, and I absolutely adore it. It basically saved one of my games because my players took an unexpected left turn. And I talked about this in another video. You can check out that video. But there are these, and I just want to quickly show you this. There are these like flip out pages, I don't know what to call them. For example, there is this section on giants. There's a giant right here, right? There's this entire thing that comes with a basic giant's lair and like loot for the giant and motives of the giants, the essence of the giants, giant encounters, giant pets, all of that kind of stuff that you want to run if you want to run a giant. And my players took an unexpected left turn, so I tossed a side quest their way. One of my players was talking about her personal life with my girlfriend, who was also a player at my table. They were talking amongst each other, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. And I was just flipping through this book, and in a matter of 5 minutes, it absolutely saved my game. We had this awesome side quest that took 2 sessions, and it all just came from this book. Also, it's really cool that they have monsters in here, right? For all genres. It's fantasy monsters, horror monsters, fairy tale monsters, modern monsters, science fiction, superheroes, post-apocalyptic, and Weird West monsters. So for all of their, basically all of their white books right there, these white books right here, they have some extra monsters in here. But the cool thing about that is there is a lot of overlap. Like, for example, in fairy tales, we have pirates, but we can perfectly use these pirates in our 5th edition in our fantasy game, right? There's witches. Witches are perfectly well usable. They are in the fairy tale section. Which are perfectly well usable in your fantasy setting. Even like science fiction kind of stuff. I saw some science fiction stuff that you can use. Cyborgs or aliens, for example. You could just use these in your fantasy game as some sort of weird creature that lives somewhere in a dungeon or something like that. There is a lot of overlap. So they chosen these monsters really, really well. They are separated in genres, but there's also a lot of overlap. So if you are running a Cypher System game, this is absolutely a must-buy, especially since the Cypher System lends itself to play different genres so well that most people who play the Cypher System play different genres. Like most GMs who GM the Cypher System have a group of fantasy right there, a group of science fiction right there, a group of maybe a fairy tale or horror kind of thing there right there. There's post-apocalyptic stuff there, so they can just carry this Cypher System bestiary around and have beasts and monsters for every game. Ptolus might be the best book I own. It's a masterpiece. It's a campaign setting for the Cypher System and for 5th edition. It works for both. It is incredibly big, and it is all one city. Now, this thing is freaking old. This is not from 2024 at all. But like I stated in the beginning of the video, I discovered this in 2024, and I started talking about this in 2024, and I started falling in love with this in 2024. So I'm reviewing it as one of my books from 2024. Ptolus is a massive, enormous city that has everything: districts, locations, NPCs, politics, dungeons. There's stuff to do around the city, in the city, sewers, everything you can imagine within the 670 pages, and it is all usable for 5th edition and for the Cypher System. It is, I don't know. I don't even know where to start. So you can buy this. It is pretty damn expensive. I don't know exactly how much it costs, but it's pretty damn expensive. But you get so many hours in return for this. And for me, when I buy something, I always look at how expensive something is divided by the amount of hours I use it, that is the actual cost of the product, right? So this costs you next to nothing if you once you start using it. It just costs you like 1 cent an hour or something like that. There's so much content in here. It's the best campaign setting that I have. I'm sorry to all other creators. There's a lot, like Midgard, for example, that comes really, really close, but Ptolus really does it. It's a city. It's an enormous campaign setting within 670 pages about a fucking city. Sorry, about a city. And it even comes with this big brown envelope full of player handouts and maps. And there's menus for taverns here. There is this Delver's Square, which is basically a little town within the city, which functions as like the hub for the players. So the city is the adventuring zone, and this is basically their hometown. So that's the way it plays and feels while they're in this big capital. So this is really cool, so they don't get lost, and they actually have an inn and a few shops and everything they need within Delver's Square, and that's where they start from and go into the adventuring of the city and then get back there, which is really smartly done, really well worked out. There's maps for dungeons in here, there's maps of the city to hand out, a big map of the city to hand out, there is menus, there's a calendar, there are even papers to become an official citizen. There are like wanted posters, character sheet, all of that stuff. If you ever are looking for a campaign setting that you can play for the rest of your life, that you can run for the rest of your life, Ptolus is the one. I know you might be like, I don't want my players to be in a city for the rest of their lives. There's more. There's stuff around the city, but also the city feels so big and there's so much different stuff to do in the city that it doesn't feel like you're tied to this urban type gameplay. You have dungeon crawls, you have big, ginormous dungeons under the city, that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you're looking for that kind of thing, Ptolus is a must-buy. And then, the book that needs a Session 0, Injuries and Vile Deeds. The book that reminds me of that 3rd edition book, the Book of Vile Darkness, if that's the correct title. Injuries and Vile Deeds is what it says it is. It's a book about injuries and vile deeds. It's a really good book about a company that I only really discovered this year, Lone Colossus Games, who make incredible books, incredible high quality books, and Injuries and Vile Deeds is the same. Now, Injuries and Vile Deeds adds extra mechanics to 5th edition, so be careful. If you already think there is a lot going on when you play 5th edition, don't use this book. Now, if you're the kind of person who likes to add more tactic and role-playing opportunities and just more mechanics into 5th edition, this one is really for you, because although it adds more mechanics, the mechanics it adds are really simple to grasp and really cool. So there is an injury system in here. That's its main selling point. There is an injury system in here where your players, the player characters, can get injuries like an arm cut off or a finger cut off and all that kind of stuff, but they can also inflict injuries to the monsters. It's 2 different systems, but they kind of do the same thing, but in a different way, right? Now, it's not as simple as players just getting injured and that's it, right? There is this entire system where you might have a scar across your face which gives you minus something, but also gives you, like, I don't know, plus on charisma checks when you're intimidating a person. I'm just making this up, but that's the kind of thing you can expect from Injuries and Vile Deeds. Also, on top of that, they have thematic character options for the Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizards. They have backgrounds, they have feats, they have spells, they have non-playable characters, a ton of like NPCs in here, and everything is themed after inflicting wounds, dishing out as much pain and suffering as you possibly can. There's monsters in here that have that same focus of dishing out like really painful kind of stuff, and that is basically what Injuries and Vile Deeds does. Now, if you want more information about this book, same as the other books, click the link somewhere around here, because I have reviewed this, and this is a book that has hit my table a few times and has been used a few times, and that's why it really deserves a spot on this list. The second book that I did not expect I was gonna like as much as I like it, is the Game Master's Guide for Tales of the Valiant. Now don't get me wrong, Tales of the Valiant is an incredibly cool RPG by Kobold Press. It's based on 5th edition, it's fully compatible for 5th edition. Anybody who plays 5th edition can toss in these rules in their 5th edition game, or completely take Tales of the Valiant rules and just continue their campaign the same way they were doing it. The player's book with all the player characters, great book. The monster book, like Kobold Press does monster books, really good. But this one absolutely surprised me, because if you know me, you know that I really don't like Game Master's Guides, Dungeon Master's Guides, because I always think they have a bunch of the same gibberish going on and a lot of like filler and text upon text about how to run games and that your players need to bring Cheetos and pizza to the table so you as a game master can focus on prepping the game and that kind of stuff, right? And there's never enough grabbable stuff for you as a game master to actually take and use for your game. And that's where this book comes in. I've done a video series, I'm actually in the middle of a video series where I take stuff from this book and I talk about that particular thing in that video. And I've already done like 3 or 4 videos on it and I just scratched the surface. This book is filled with GM usable, grabbable stuff, not just a text that says like, you should do this and you should do that and you should do that. Now that part is in here, which is great, but it is held to a minimum because it is just like, we said it, now let's show you how to do it, right? It is more like, let's just first talk about the theory and then we'll help you develop the practice. That is how this book works, and it is after the 4th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, which was a really good Dungeon Master's Guide. This one is just, I don't know, I think this is the best one ever that I held in my hands, and I've looked at a lot of Game Master's Guides. I'm never happy with a Game Master's Guide. I'm never like, yeah, this is what a Game Master's Guide is supposed to do. And yeah, you should just check out my videos because there's so much in here. There's rules. It's not about the rules per se. It's about like, how do you create encounters? How do you create monsters? How do you create villages? How do you create, I don't know. There's so much more. There's like really grabbable stuff. Even like the stupid stuff like mountains, right? Encounter tables for mountain. All Game Master books and a lot of books have that, but they go deeper into that. Instead of just saying like, hey, there are harpies attacking the party from a mountain. No, they are exactly say the PCs discover a picked clean bone of various creatures at the base of a cliff. A successful DC 15 intelligence nature check suggests the creatures were eaten by harpies. They don't tell you like just like there's harpies. No, they're like, here is something you can do with those harpies, and it's just enough for you as a game master to get enough, especially if you're like a game master who's kind of new to the game, enough inspiration to start going with that you just read, if that makes any sense. So yeah, the Tales of the Valiant Game Master's Guide by Kobold Press is an absolute banger, and if you're ever into Tales of the Valiant, which I suggest you are, make sure to pick up all 3 of the books and not miss out on the Game Master's Guide. Now, although those were my 5 favorite books from 2024, there's one more thing I want to talk about. Nimble RPG. And that is, I want to talk about that separately because it's not really a book yet. It's a PDF, it's not really finished, and I'm still like discovering it and still reading it, but I've already talked about it in 2024. And it has to be my favorite new RPG. Yes, I'm calling it that, favorite new RPG. And in 2024, I discovered a bunch of new RPGs. There's a Vagabond by Indestruct Boy, there is DC 20 by the Dungeon Coach, there is Tales of the Valiant, which is an RPG that I actively play right now. There's Shadow Dark that I discovered in 2024. There's probably one more, I don't know. There's my own RPG that I'm creating right now, link in the description below. And there is Nimble RPG. And Nimble RPG is an absolute banger of a simple system, a simple RPG that has the depth and gameplay of 5th edition, but just takes away so much useless stuff of 5th edition, simplifies it, and puts it back in, right? Nimble RPG really feels like this video game that is not yet optimized, and then just somebody stepping in, taking the code of the video game, and just streamlining the code of the video game, and then just updating that video game. Kind of what happened for, what's that futuristic looter shooter game, Warframe. That happened with Warframe. Warframe was in a really bad state at some point, and then a company stepped in and they were like, rewrite the code, take a bunch of code out and put it back, and then suddenly the game flowed much better, played much better, and that is what I think Nimble RPG feels like. It feels like they rewrote the code for 5th edition. I know it sounds stupid, but it really flows. I tested it a few times and it really flows. It's really fun to play. There are some mechanics in there. Once you read them, you're like, that would not work for my game. And then you actually try it and it's absolutely freaking great. So yeah, Nimble RPG is like the biggest surprise in RPGs for me in 2024, definitely. And that's it for 2024. I cannot wait what 2025 brings. That's such a weird expression. I cannot wait. You'll have to wait. I mean, if something comes in the future, you can wait. What will happen if you can't? Will you die? Doesn't make any sense, right?